claws are weapons, but the pack is the death sentence. What do you do when an entire army is closing in on you? The inescapable siege, the terrifying power of packs of killers. On the vast prairie, the most terrifying presence isn't a single predator, but a coordinated group working like a single machine. One wrong move, and you're eliminated from the survival game. Here, individual strength sometimes bows before the power of the pack. We will enter the world of inescapable sieges, where unity and collective intelligence redefine the concept of the strongest. Wild dogs hunting. The tactic of racing against prey. Under the scorching midday sun of the prairie, when most predators choose to hide in the shade to conserve energy, the pack of wild dogs begins its game. Have you ever wondered why a creature with such a small physique, lacking the powerful blow of a lion or the lightning speed of a cheetah, holds the highest hunting success rate in the predatory world, reaching 80%? The answer doesn't lie in its claws. It lies in a cruel and brutal physical torture tactic called pack hunting. This time, the target was a mature, tenacious wildebeest weighing over 200 kilograms, with its long, curved horns and incredible endurance. While lions require a breathtaking takedown, the pack of 20 wild dogs chose a different approach. Collective torture. The pack divided into small groups, lined up like a Roman legion. Group 1 began to lure and force the wildebeest into a forced sprint. The wildebeest's heart rate began to spiral out of control. It turned left, where a group of dogs was waiting. It turned right, and other speckled shadows appeared like ghosts. This was no longer a chase. This was a siege. The wildebeest might be stronger, but it couldn't be stronger than a collective that knew how to share pain and exhaustion. When a lone individual confronts an ironclad system of discipline, death isn't an accident. It's a calculated outcome. Look at that coordination. They understood that to defeat the most stubborn opponent, they had to be the most persistent. What good is brute strength when your opponent is an army that never tires? If you were that wildebeest, would you choose to fight to the last breath or surrender to a fate predetermined by the herd? The sound of the wildebeest's hooves pounding the mud one last time faded, giving way to the chilling laughter that began to echo from the distant bushes. Don't mistake wild dogs for only chasing gentle herbivores. Even hyenas, those cunning gangsters with jaws capable of crushing elephant bones, are terrified when they fall into the sights of this pack of killers. The angry wild dogs. Have you ever seen a seasoned robber, a cunning killer, surrounded and humiliated in broad daylight? When a lone hyena strays from the pack or deliberately approaches the wild dog's territory to steal prey, the surround and conquer mode is immediately activated. There is no fear between predators, only the discipline of the majority. The pack of wild dogs forms an arc, cutting off all escape routes to the safe bushes. The hyena tried to bare its fangs and launch threatening bites into the air, but the wild dogs were too quick and agile. Every time the hyena attempted to break free and escape, the pack would work together to block its path. The dogs behind constantly lunged, sniping and biting at its legs and hips, forcing the hyena to constantly squirm in vain. The hyena's slowness and isolation were exploited to the fullest by the persistence of the wild dog army. The bully now experienced the despair of being surrounded in an inescapable encirclement. The hyena might be a terror to the weak, but now it was merely a solitary fortress being torn apart by an impenetrable army. The wild dogs used their coordinated attack to turn the fearsome predator into a humiliating loser. Do you feel satisfied witnessing a predator like a hyena being punished by the unity of wild dogs? What good are bone-crushing jaws when you can't touch those fleeting shadows? Hyenas versus lions. The pack overthrows the throne. Lions are the kings, but hyenas are masters of the game of numbers. Have you ever seen a king tremble? That's when 30 pairs of blazing eyes surround a single individual. Hyenas don't blindly surrender. They form a closed circle, maintaining a suffocating distance. The tactic is clear: harassment and psychological wear and tear. When the lion charges forward, those behind immediately swarm forward, biting and tearing at its flanks and legs. Pride is gradually replaced by extreme fear. Under the pressure of the robber army, the lone king realizes, faced with a system of discipline, individual strength is meaningless. Do you side with the lone king or the cunning hyena army? What good is courage against an inescapable encirclement? Leave your opinion. The fury of the fortresses. However, the savanna is not just about predatory invasions. The strength of the pack is also used for protection. When fangs clash with a living fortress, the line between winner and loser is not determined by speed, but by an unbreakable iron discipline. That's when the hungry lions make the biggest mistake of their lives, challenging a family of elephants. In the world of giants, the pack is an indestructible shield. When the lions try to split the baby elephant from its bloodline, a deep, resonant ultrasonic signal sounds, and instantly, a protective circle is established. Adult elephants, weighing over 5 tons, don't panic and flee. They turn, ready to fight to the death. Lions try to find even the smallest gap, but all they see are towering tusks and trunks that could break a spine at any moment. The strength of the herd here isn't for destruction. Brotherhood is the strongest fortress under the sun. Lions are kings of the hunt, but elephants are lords of unity. Do you dare cross the boundary of such a moving and furious fortress? The Black Legion overthrows the predator. But protection is sometimes not enough. On the savanna, there are times when prey decides to turn the tables with a full-scale sweep. That's when the Black Legion of buffalo awakens. A single buffalo is brought down, its agonizing roar seemingly the end. But no, it's the signal for a collective purge. Instead of scattering in fear, the buffalo unexpectedly turned around, lining up like an armored legion. They charged at the lions with the speed of a runaway train. When the prey is no longer afraid, the hunter immediately becomes the hunted. Touching a lone buffalo is one thing, but confronting the fury of an entire Black Legion is a completely different story. The power of the herd transformed the hunted into warriors capable of sweeping away all power. The savanna is not for the weak and solitary. The inescapable encirclement is proof of the supreme intelligence and unbreakable unity of nature. Did this journey captivate you until the very end? Share your thoughts on the most terrifying power you just witnessed. Nature changes in the blink of an eye. Under the bright sunshine, the zebra grazed peacefully, unaware that it had fallen into an ambush orchestrated by the masterful minds of predators. Lions don't hunt blindly. They hunt with patience and clearly defined tactical roles. The pride of lionesses split into 3 attack groups. 2 spread out to encircle it, silently creeping along the ground in the golden grass. The lioness appeared from the front. The zebra panicked, instinct urging it to run towards what seemed to be its only escape route. But that was a trap. the lioness lured the zebras straight into the waiting gun. The golden shadow leaped up, its muscles gripping the prey's flank. The other lionesses immediately swarmed in, locking down any attempts at escape. The seamless coordination between the pursuer and the ambusher transformed the hunt into a flawless battle formation. The speed of a zebra is meaningless against a pre-written scenario. Lions don't just use their claws, they use the art of spatial manipulation to turn the savanna into a chessboard where they are the pawns. A victory of strategic thinking over the instinct to flee. However, the savanna doesn't offer just one scenario for death. Leaving the thickets where lions hide, we arrive at the open ground, where hyenas are preparing to showcase another equally brutal form of collective hunting. High gaze versus young buffalo. The tactics of luring and isolation. Facing a buffalo, the armored tank of the savanna, is a suicide mission for any lone predator. But for the hyena pack, the target's strength is its weakness, which they exploit. The hyena pack doesn't attack the deadly horns directly. They split into two formations. The moment the mother buffalo was dragged just a few meters away from her calf, other gray shadows immediately swarmed in from the blind spot. They forced the calf to run in the opposite direction from its mother. Every attempt by the mother buffalo to save her calf was thwarted by the coordinated efforts of the pursuers and the keepers. The psychological battle ended when the calf was isolated, completely separated from the protection of its family. We have just witnessed some of the most brutal scenarios under the prairie sun. From the grueling chase tactics of the wild dogs, the cunning and devious schemes of the hyenas, to the sacred maternal bond that creates an impenetrable fortress for the elephants. All of this proves a single truth. Solving the law alone is suicide. Unity is survival. In the wild, power may crumble, the killer may become prey, but collective strength will always be the ultimate weapon to overturn all limits. The strength of the wolf lies in its pack. Goodbye and see you again. The lion fell. The hyenas closed in. Death seemed inevitable. But the buffalo unexpectedly intervened. Was it a miracle What made them break the rules of the savanna? A crazy paradox. Why did the buffalo save the lion's life? The Masai Mara savanna, where each dry season is remembered as a cruel purge. When the water recedes from the last of the rivers, those who cannot keep their herds are eliminated. This land is famous for its unforgiving rule. Those who live in herds dominate. Those who are solitary are hunted. In that world, buffalo and lion exist as two opposing poles. The lion is the only predator strong enough to take down an adult buffalo. And the buffalo is the rare prey that can turn around and kill a lion if cornered. Between these two species, there is no gray area, only hunting, sacrifice, and the memory of lost cubs. But it is in this place, considered a timeless battlefield, that a crazy paradox occurs. A buffalo saves a lion's life. The dry season casts a heavy and cautious rhythm over Masai Mara. Mornings arrive in a thin layer of mist and dust, while midday heats the earth like red-hot metal. Herds of antelope move further each day. All species congregate around the last remaining waterholes. The buffalo form tight groups, their calves always at the center of the formation. No species moves without reason. Every step is calculated to conserve energy. And in the dry season, every mistake is magnified. In Masai Mara, nature doesn't kill with a single blow. It kills through erosion, hunger, thirst, and exhaustion. Even lions are not exempt from this rule. Far from the center of the territory, a young male lion appeared in the harsh sunlight. Its mane hadn't yet thickened, its body was covered in dust, and its gait was somewhat unsteady. An old wound on its shoulder stretched with each movement. Not long before, it had been with the pride. A fierce struggle had taken place. It had been driven out of the pride. The lion left before sunset. Wounded, alone, and forced to survive in the dry season, that was the most dangerous state for a predator. The smell of blood wasn't distinct, but the exhaustion was. And on Masai Mara, there are species that don't need the smell of blood to know who is weak. Hyenas began to appear at the edge of the field of vision. They weren't in a hurry. They simply walked alongside, keeping their distance, observing each increasingly heavy breath. They understood the rules of this land very well. When a lion loses its pride, it is no longer the only predator. And the game, just now, changed direction. The hyenas didn't wait any longer. The distance between them and the lion began to close. No longer walking side by side, they separated, silently taking the last escape routes. Each step narrowed the space around the lion. The lion turned its head and roared. The sound was dry, short, and lacking in force. Not enough to stop those accustomed to hunting with patience. They began to attack the lion. not to kill, but to remind it that it no longer had control. The lion resisted, but its body no longer obeyed its commands. The wounds festered slowly. The heat and exhaustion pressed in from all sides. The hyenas began to gain more confidence. Each approach further eroded its remaining strength. There was no turning back. No more pack. Death didn't come immediately. It stood there, very close. And at that very moment, the ground began to shake. The heavy hooves of a dark mass were approaching. A herd of buffalo appeared. The hyenas froze. They turned not toward the lions, but toward the greater danger that was upon them. In a few swift movements, the buffalo charged straight into the hyena formation. They knocked down everything that stood between the herd and the safe zone. The hyenas fled. And in that moment of chaos, the lion, who should have died, was left behind and alive. When the dust settled, the buffalo herd had vanished like a black wave that had just swept through and disappeared. The lion stood there, but no one looked at it. Not protection, no mercy. It's just a question hanging over the savanna. Why did the buffalo choose to strike at that particular moment? The buffalo didn't strike because of the lion. They struck for their pack. On the Masai Mara, a pack of hyenas gathering too close is never a harmless sign. Hyenas don't hunt out of hunger at that moment, but out of opportunity. Today, the injured lion is the target. Tomorrow, if a calf is slow, the target will change. For the buffalo, danger isn't measured by hatred, but by the potential to disrupt order in the present moment. When hyenas become agitated, move, and approach, they become something to be pushed back immediately. And the exhausted lion, standing still in the mud and dust, is just a risk yet to arise. The buffalo doesn't choose its prey. They only choose what must be eliminated first. And in that moment, when the hyena was driven from the savanna, the lion was still alive. Not because it was saved, but because it wasn't its turn yet. The chaos was over. This was merely a postponed sentence. The lion was wounded, hungry, and, more importantly, humiliated in front of its enemies. Now, it had lost the invisible shield of territorial authority. All of Masai Mara knew of its weakness. The scent of the hyena had faded, but the scent of defeat remained. The enemies were still there. They were no longer close, but they were lurking, watching eyes from the dry grass. They were calculating. Today, the buffalo intervened, but tomorrow, when the lion moved in search of water, no one would protect him. He was a young male lion, born to rule. But now, he had to get used to a new role. The lone survivor. He had to walk, not like a king, but like a wanderer, always wary of every shadow on the savanna. Loneliness was a double challenge to survival. Group hunting relied on strength and coordination. Solitary hunting relied on patience and calculated risk. A lone lion no longer had the strength to take down a mature buffalo or zebra. Each missed hunt was a loss of precious energy, pushing him closer to his limit. He was forced to change tactics. He had to crouch down to hunt smaller, less prestigious prey, hares, young antelopes, or even carcasses. The meals were never enough to satisfy him, but they helped him prolong the fight. His hunting skills changed. From fierce confrontation, he shifted to the art of stalking, patiently waiting for his prey's mistake. His nose touched the ground. His breath was held back. A young antelope. Opportunities come in the blink of an eye, and the lone lion must pour all its remaining strength into one final sprint. He lunged, a failed pounce. The antelope escaped in an instant. The lion collapsed, not from the pounce, but from hunger that had consumed all its energy reserves. This is nature's harsh lesson. When you lose your group, you have to become smarter or starve to death. And each failed pounce was one step closer to where the buffalo and hyena had predicted he would go. Hunting by stalking, by carrion, might postpone death, but it couldn't bring life. If he wanted to survive long-term, he had to find a pride. But reintegration wasn't easy. In the distance was the silhouette of a pride of lionesses. This was his ultimate goal: the protection of a group. To join a new pride, he had to face the current dominant male lion, a relentless battle to the death. To return to his pride, he must overcome the one who defeated him. This journey is more perilous than even a hyena's. For the most dangerous predator for a lion is another lion. That is the unavoidable law of power. The dry season continues. And the biggest question still hangs in the balance. Will this lone predator die in the mud, exhausted, or will it fight to reclaim its lost throne? Does its survival still hold any meaning for the Masai Mara order? This story doesn't end with victory, but with an endless continuation. On Masai Mara, there are no permanent friends or enemies. Only order and those willing to do anything to maintain it. If you want to know whether this lion will fall or be strong enough to return and reclaim its place, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and leave your comment below. See you on the next survival journey. Amidst the dark foliage, a pair of deep black eyes silently observed. These weren't the soulless gaze of an animal, but the cold, calculating stare of an intelligent being. A crack echoed, a dry branch deliberately broken. It was the signal to attack. A bloody aerial purge officially began. A nightmare from above. The monkey's terrifying scream as it falls into an ambush. In the chilling silence of the highest forest canopy, where sunlight was reduced to weak rays filtering through the leaves, the nightmare didn't begin with a roar, but with an unusual stillness. The dense foliage intertwined like a deep green labyrinth, where monkeys had always confidently believed that height was their absolute protector. But today, the atmosphere was thick with tension. There was no wind, yet the branches swayed rhythmically, subtly, and calculatingly. The predator stood there, motionless as if part of the ancient tree trunk, waiting for the moment when the prey's confidence would turn into terror. For the colobus monkey, the world was divided into two distinct halves. The ground was a hell on earth, where the sharp teeth of the leopard and the deadly silence of the python lurked. Down in the dark depths, where gnarled roots clung to the damp earth, a giant anaconda patiently positioned itself. It did not move. Its body coiled like a decaying tree trunk submerged in mud and decaying leaves, only its lifeless eyes rising above the still water like a lurking demon. Just one misstep onto the ground, and that cold mass of muscle would spring forth like a death spring, trapping its prey in an inescapable grip, crushing bones before darkness swallowed everything into the depths of the earth. In stark contrast to that suffocating atmosphere, the lush green sky above was paradise, an impenetrable fortress. "30 meters above the ground, they reigned as kings of agility. Their weightless leaps and millimeter-precise swings between the interwoven branches created an illusion of absolute safety. They believed that as long as their feet touched the smallest branches, where heavy predators couldn't reach, death would forever remain behind in the abyss. The monkeys' daily lives unfolded with an unusual carefree attitude. Their clear calls, playful chases, and the rustling of leaves created a peaceful symphony for a kingdom untouched by enemies. They never had to look up, for above them was only the clear blue sky. They rarely looked sideways either, for their innate agility provided an impenetrable shield. But this excessive self-confidence blinded them to the strange movements occurring in the intermediate layers of the trees. They didn't know that this green fortress wasn't as impenetrable as they thought. The real predators didn't climb up from the ground with a resounding roar. They had been there for a long time, hidden in the shadows of ancient trees, silently observing the monkeys' slightest habits. The colobus monkeys were still enjoying their glorious lives, completely unaware that each leap now led not to freedom, but straight into a meticulously laid death maze. The illusion of safety is the most insidious weapon, for it strips the prey of its instinct for vigilance before the real tragedy begins. Behind the dense foliage, where light is stifled by the thickness of the plants, a cruel power game is silently unfolding. Those moving in the shadows are not wild animals acting purely on instinct. They are warriors of a jungle special forces unit. Chimpanzees don't hunt with momentary aggression. They hunt with patience and a terrifying planning ability that blurs the line between animal and human. While the colobus monkeys were still basking in their illusion of safety, the chimpanzees had already established a sophisticated battle network. A group of female chimpanzees silently crept across the tree slopes, acting as ghosts to disrupt the view. The adult males, with their bulging muscles but light footsteps, didn't look directly at their prey. They observed the terrain. They memorized every gap between the branches, every potential escape route, and every blind spot in the foliage. Their gaze was cold and focused, like generals surveying a military map. Every movement was executed in a deadly silence. There were no howls to call the troop, no superfluous sound signals. This silence is a sophisticated language, a testament to a tacit understanding among the team members. They form a perfect encirclement, isolating the target without revealing any weakness. This is no longer the foraging behavior of a primate. This is a march of an elite squad carrying out a purge mission. Each chimpanzee understands its role in the system, those blocking the way up, those locking down the way down, and those waiting for the final moment to strike. Their social intelligence has transformed a normal hunt into a meticulously planned purge, turning the forest into a giant trap that the prey only recognizes when the hatch is completely closed. Their social intelligence has transformed a normal hunt into a meticulously planned political assassination. The chimpanzees weren't simply hungry, they were exercising their ultimate power, transforming the entire forest into a giant cage where prey only realized their defeat when the tactical trapdoor had completely slammed shut. A monkey separated from the troop, half a beat too late. That was all the chimpanzees needed. The monkey was herded into an invisible corridor. By the time the prey realized the danger, all escape routes had vanished. There was no way up. The way down was blocked, and on either side was a dense swarm of chimpanzees. A death radius had been established. In that fateful moment, space seemed to condense. All rules of reason and survival experience seemed to vanish completely. The monkey, cornered in the depths of despair, saw only deep black eyes and hairy arms tightening their grip. Extreme panic choked its breath, forcing it to make a final instinctive decision, a reckless leap into the open space ahead, where the thinnest branch jutted out like a fragile thread of hope. But it wasn't an escape. It was the final trap of its calculated plan. The moment the monkey's body left its footing, a hairy, black, rough, yet powerful hand suddenly shot out from the shadows of the dense foliage like a steel clamp. Death had called its name. Its fate was sealed in the sky. The final scream faded amidst the violently shaking foliage. From the high levels, the chimpanzees' special forces began to emerge. They weren't hurried, there was no chaos or fighting typical of animals after a hunt. Instead, they moved slowly, advancing towards their target from different directions with chilling discipline. They share their spoils within a chilling social order. From the ground, the silhouettes of the muscular male chimpanzees loomed large, obscuring the last vestiges of daylight. The most terrifying thing wasn't the imminent death, but the belated realization that everything from beginning to end was part of a meticulously orchestrated script. These chimpanzees knew exactly what they were doing, how to crush a will, and how to isolate a life. As the shadows of the foliage fell upon the carcass of their prey, the entire forest held its breath before a cruel truth. Intelligence, when used as a weapon of slaughter, transforms humanity's closest kin into the most dangerous and haunting predators the jungle has ever produced. Do you find chimpanzees terrifying? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the bell and subscribe so you don't miss the next wildlife survival series.